There are some extinct species that may be brought back to life if scientists can overcome some practical hurdles and thorny ethical questions. To successfully clone an extinct animal, scientists need to find animal DNA that is almost entirely intact. So some species will make better candidates for resurrection than others. For instance, recently extinct animals that have been preserved in museums make good candidates, as do ancient animals that were preserved in permafrost during the last ice age. Here's our list of extinct animals that could be resurrected. Early in 2011, Japanese scientists announced that they plan to clone a woolly mammoth within 5 years. The clock is ticking, but with a little luck, these Ice Age behemoths may soon become the first inhabitants of the world's first zoo for extinct animals. Mammoths make particularly good candidates for resurrection because they went extinct so recently and because many intact specimens have been found frozen in the Arctic tundra. The Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, native to Australia, was a remarkable animal that was the largest known carnivorous marsupial of modern times. The animals went extinct as recently as the 1930s, mostly due to the relentless efforts of bounty hunters. Because they went extinct so recently, specimens of the animal remain intact, pickled and preserved in museum jars. Some specimens that have been stuffed and displayed in museums may also still retain DNA. Still think cloning extinct animals is impossible? Technically, it's already been done. The Pyrenean ibex recently became the first extinct animal to ever become unextinct, at least for 7 minutes. The cloned fetus, which contained reanimated DNA from the last known living Pyrenean ibex, was successfully brought to term after being implanted in the womb of a living domestic goat. Looking at the epic canine teeth of these once fearsome cats of Pleistocene lore, you may wonder whether resurrecting saber-toothed cats is a good idea. Nevertheless, they certainly make good candidates. Not only did they go extinct relatively recently, but fossil specimens have survived into modern times thanks to the frigid habitats they once roamed. Several intact specimens have also been recovered from ancient tar deposits, like those at the La Brea tar pits. Moa are giant flightless birds, similar in appearance to ostriches and emus, but without vestigial wings, were once the world's largest birds. Because moas were hunted to extinction as recently as 600 years ago, their feathers and eggs can still be found relatively intact. In fact, moa DNA has already been extracted from ancient eggshells, and projects to clone the moa have already been attempted. Perhaps the world's most notorious extinct animal, the dodo, was driven to extinction a mere 80 years after its discovery. Since the bird's habitat on the island of Mauritius contained no natural predators, the dodo evolved to have no fear of humans and was easily clubbed to death. The dodo may soon be reborn if scientists can locate enough DNA to create a clone that could be implanted in the eggs of closely related modern pigeons. For example, DNA samples have recently been retrieved from museum samples housed at the Oxford University Museum of Natural History, making the dodo a good candidate for this process. Look at the fossil remains of this ancient creature and you might believe you're looking at a giant bear. In fact, these elephantine animals were ground sloths, most closely related to the slumbering modern-day three-toed sloth. They make good candidates for resurrection, again, because they went extinct so recently. Giant ground sloths may have still walked the earth just 8,000 years ago at the dawn of human civilization. DNA samples have already been extracted from intact hair remains. Once the only parrot species native to the United States, the Carolina parakeet was tragically driven to extinction after being hunted for its feathers, which were popular in ladies' hats. The last known specimen died as recently as 1918, and because stuffed birds, remnant feathers, and eggshells can still be found in circulation and in museums, DNA extraction and cloning of the species could soon become a possibility. Some historians have already called for such a project to begin. The woolly mammoth wasn't the only massive hairy creature to drag its scraggy dreads over the chilly Pleistocene tundra. The woolly rhinoceros also stomped through the Arctic snow as recently as 10,000 years ago. The animal also appears frequently in ancient cave art, like the Chauvet-Pont d'Art cave in France. Another megafauna to fall victim to the ending of an ice age was the Irish elk. Calling this animal an elk is actually a misnomer, as recent DNA analysis has shown that it was actually a deer. In fact, the largest deer to have ever lived. Its antlers alone measured as much as 12 feet across.